Greetings from the, well, apiary shed. Now, today I want to have a quick chat about the hives, beginner beekeepers, primarily beginner beekeepers from Britain, tend to gravitate to. Let me show you. This is, at least the brood box of, the National Hive. Strictly speaking, it's called the Modified National Hive. I think perhaps there was a change in the design, I think it was 1950s, which kind of meant this square form box ended up with this sort of big rebate. Very useful for carrying things. So the National Hive does have its uses. I mean, there's the equivalent supers which go on top, which have this rebate, very useful. And this is the reciprocal frame which goes in it. Okay, there we go. So we've got, that's the arrangement. Now, this frame, big lugs, has its advantages. The big lugs are holding it, although they're quite prone to breaking off if you manhandle them. The top bar, the top bar here, that's 14 inches and it's got a drop, I think it's about 8 inches. And normally there's about 10 of these frames in a box, in a brood box, and that provides, roughly speaking, about 50,000 worker cells. So once the bees draw out the foundation, that provides 50,000 worker cells. Now, not all of those cells are going to be for brood and eggs. Some of it will be for pollen. They may store some honey in it. They may draw out some drone brood. But the problem is with this size of hive on its own, with just this brood box on its own, is it's a bit too small. Now, during the height of the beekeeping season, a colony of honeybees could have 60,000 bees, and a national hive, the brood box of, could accommodate 50,000 worker bees. So it just turns out that it's perhaps a bit too small, and they're very prone to bees kept in a national hive can be prone to swarming quite easily. Now, beginner beekeepers usually choose a modified national hive or just a national hive because they're easily available. They're very common in Britain, and perhaps some of the old-timer beekeepers have always used national hives, and there's a lot of kit on the market and lots of other accessories and whatnot, and perhaps some beekeeping associations have a tendency, not necessarily to promote it, but they seem to have this sort of nostalgia for it. Now, I do like the fact that it's square framed. I do like the rebate so you can carry the boxes, but it's just not big enough. Now, there are other hives on the market. Now, the problem is, as a beginner, once you start building up hives, building up boxes, you tend to stick with them. So changing to a different hive, perhaps a bigger brood box, it's a big decision. It's sort of the psychology of previous investments, because not all the frames will actually fit So if you say, for instance, another one on the market would be the Commercial hive, another one would be the Langstroth hive. Now I think the Langstroth hive, for instance, the frames wouldn't fit into that particular box. So what beekeepers do is choose a 14 by 12. So basically it's the same form in terms of its square form, and uses the same sort of plan as the Modified National, but the 14 by 12 hive is that little bit deeper. So the top bar for both of them, 14 inches, whereas the British standard frame is something like 8 inches. The 14 by 12 has a 12-inch drop. Now 10 frames of the normal national, that's 50,000 worker cells. For a commercial hive, the brood box would contain 70,000, Langstroth 61,000 thereabouts, and the 14 by 12 72,000 worker cells. So it would provide a much bigger box. So one way around, if you're a beginner and you've invested in several of the standard size the national or standard size frames, is you can actually purchase an eek or a frame which will raise the height of this, so it would accommodate 14 by 12 frames. And that's what I've done. I find that 14 by 12 hives sort of don't swarm as easily as the smaller frame, but you do still keep the advantages of a box with a big rebate for lifting it, and the lugs, long lugs, are very useful for handling. So I thought I'd just share that with you if there's any beginners out there wondering what hive to keep their bees in. So yeah, I think about a 14 by 12. Bye for now.